And we welcome you on into another episode of the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Spinell alongside Mitchell Balla here, gearing up for another episode to talk about sports with you guys, local, statewide, nationwide, everything. So once again, Mitch, thank you so much for taking the time to join me to talk today. We are going to be going over some of the games coming up this week, as well as a huge part of our episode going to be dedicated to the National Football League since week one. It is officially week one now. The regular season about to kick off Thursday night, as well as the big crop of games coming this Sunday.
Mitch, pleasure to be back. And for everybody out there listening, just realize that when you're listening to this podcast that night from September 8th up until what I believe is going to be 2023, you're going to have football Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And before you know it, you're going to incorporate playoff baseball. Basketball will be back. This is the best time of the year to be a sports fan, in my opinion, Mitch.
Absolutely. It's a great time for us to be talking about it as well. And before we go on to the show, I want to remind you guys, since we didn't do it last week, that you can follow our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. We also, distribute the podcast through Anchor. That is not a sponsor for us, but we love what Anchor does for our distribution. You can also find us here on YouTube. We post the video clips not only to our podcast streams, except for SoundCloud, which is audio only, but we obviously have it here on YouTube on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show channel. And we also have our website, bigtimesportsohio.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Mitch Spinell, at Mitchell Balla. And of course, we're on Facebook as well, Instagram. And then we have, I mentioned our website, bigtimesportsohio.com. You can find our videos there. You can find our live streams. You can find our schedule for where we are going to be covering games locally. We can also, of course, find links to the podcast. So that's a very, very good place to go. And first off with this episode, sticking in high school football now, we're in week 4 of the season, and it's getting to a point where teams are really starting to settle into where they're going to go the rest of the year. Some teams, I think, have really gotten off to good starts and are going to be playoff contenders in the next month and a half, I would say. The other ones trying to really find their footing after some tougher beginnings to the year. Mitch, we have a coverage in Stark County this week. Why don't you tell the people about that matchup, because it's one of the more interesting ones going up from where I am, at least. I know it's closer to you than it is to me.
Well, of course, there's a couple big games in Stark County this Friday night. And of course, whenever there's a big game, Big Time Sports will be there, Mitch. And you will catch Joe Dunn and Troy Richardson on the call from Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium Friday night when the Perry Panthers travel to Benson Stadium to take on the McKinley Bulldogs. We talked with head football coach at Perry, Coach Slates, in our last episode, which you can go back and check out that interview on any of our pages. But Mitch, this is a big game, right? We've seen some teams, a lot of non-conference games so far, and this opens up Federal League play. This is one of the 2 big games in the area this weekend in terms of league play. McKinley 0-3. They've had a brutal non-conference schedule. We are going to find out very quickly. Is that going to help prepare them for Federal League play, or is morale down? Are the kids starting to doubt themselves? We don't know. But one thing I do know, Perry is going in there hungry, looking for revenge last year, in which when McKinley went over to Perry on the dedication night of the field for head coach or former head coach, Coach Wakefield at Perry, and McKinley knocked off the Panthers. Panthers looking to go over to Benson, start off Federal League play on the right foot. I can't wait to be able to watch the rerun. And Joe and Troy are going to have a terrific call, but it's a massive game because if you're McKinley, Mitch, you do not want to fall to 0-4 and 0-1 in Federal League play.
No, you do not. And we'll have the call on that game as well. I mean, as well as many other games throughout the rest of the season. So when you look at week 4, Mitch, and some of the other Stark matchups, what are the ones that you think people should be keeping their eye on aside from the one we'll be covering?
Well, the other one is where I will be at, along with Gianni Capuano. We'll be doing some sideline reporting. We will be over at Green High School in Uniontown, where the 2-1 Jackson Polar Bears will go over to take on the 2-1 Green Bulldogs. Opener for Federal League play for both those teams. The other Federal League schools, you have Glen Oak at Lake. You have Hoover, non-conference. Keep in mind, Federal League is 7 teams, so there's always going to be one team that's playing a non-conference game. Hoover hosts Louisville. Massillon, though, Mitch, we talk about Massillon here and there, and Massillon, is a powerhouse Division II, one of the all-time programs in the state. They host Warren Harding, and they have some major teams coming to visit at Paul Brown Tiger Stadium here soon. But I'm excited to be at Jackson at Green because if you go back and listen to our preview show heading into the season, there was a lot of question marks around Green. I sat here and told you I figured they'd be down, but here they are, 2-1. Their only losses by 1 point in overtime, where Talmadge knocked them off last week. And it's a big game because last year Green went to Jackson, lost on a field goal attempt that was tipped at the line of scrimmage. Jackson ended up winning by 2. Green's going to be looking to get some revenge against Jackson this year, just like Perry is going to look to do against McKinley.
I do remember that game from last year, and yeah, we mentioned that the replay times for this week will be Saturday 9 a.m. and Sunday at 7 p.m. Of course, you can find the matchups there on your local access channel. I think it's for the South, it's Spectrum 15 and 989, and for the North, MCT 128. You can also go to localbroadcastnetwork.com to find the latest there. I mean, I'm looking at the ones down in Tuscarawas County. I mean, you're taking on a number of matchups, including those in the IVC. But starting off in New Philadelphia, actually the Quakers traveling to Ashland this week. The Quakers kind of getting off to a bit of a tougher start, 1-2 now for Mike Johnson's squad. They take on the 2-1 Ashland team that will be hosting them. And of course, Dover will be hosting Taylor Alderdice from Pennsylvania at Crater Stadium Friday. Dover is still undefeated following their recent victory over Indian Valley, which we covered on our last episode. And so far, Taylor Alderdice 0-2 on the year. We also have some Inter-Valley Conference games, including a couple of local ones, including in Sugar Creek, Carrollton going up against Garraway. The Warriors and the Pirates both playing very well right now, so it's interesting to see those two teams collide over at Garraway this Friday. So I'm very interested in seeing where that goes. We also have Tusky Valley taking on Minerva. You have those two matchups there. We also have Strasburg taking on Canaan Valley, and by the time this episode is released, we should have the most recent episode of the Big Time Sports Show featuring members of the Canaan Valley football squad. Now, Strasburg and CV are both 0-3, but both of them really trying to fight hard for their first one on the year. The Rockets had back-to-back 1-point losses to start off the year, and then a high-scoring 58-44 final in which they fell to Newcomerstown back in week 3. So I got a lot of great answers from Coach Don Hertler, as well as his players during our shoot earlier this week. Of course, the episode should be coming out on Wednesday, so we're very much looking forward to see how the results of that episode have come out. So I mentioned before, those matchups, Dover and New Philadelphia, mentioned Carrollton in there as well. So that is a lot of what you can expect here in high school football this coming week. Now, when we come back, I want to quickly touch on something that's not football related when it comes to high school, because I posted about this last night. There was an amazing performance in another sport by one of the top local athletes. It took place in Bolivar last night, and it was one of the all-time rounds that I've ever seen. I guess I gave away the sport because I said rounds, but we want to take a quick break. When we get back from these messages, we'll have more on what we're going to be talking about.
You asked for it and we listened. Buckeye Career Center is now offering Certified Nail Technician as an adult education program. This 216-hour course begins in November and will run Tuesday through Thursday evenings from 5 to 9 p.m. Learn manicures, pedicures, infection control, salon operations, and more. Other part-time certification courses starting this fall include phlebotomy and welding. Call 330-339-2288 to register or visit BuckeyeCareerCenter.org for more information.
If you're looking for a new or pre-owned car or truck, why not see the Parkway Auto Group? Parkway is a special group of automotive experts with 8 brands to satisfy your needs. Come see the difference at the Parkway Auto Group on Commercial Parkway in Dover. 8 brands and 1 family. It's Parkway Auto Group.
Where you matter.
You matter. Everyone plays a part. We all have a role. Each of us can make a difference. You do matter, and the best way to have a positive impact is to pay it forward. With each of us helping one another to cope, feel better, and know that we belong. Pass on the positivity today. Tell someone else they matter too. Alt Care.
Alt Care, Alt Care. Where you matter.
It takes a lot of practice to have a winning team. Albin Title has over 100 years of combined experience handling real estate, title, and escrow transactions. They serve Tuscarawas, Stark, Carroll, Harrison counties, and more. So choose Albin Title for your next home refinance, sale, or purchase. They'll get it done quickly and professionally. Contact Albin Title at 330-334-5800 or visit their website albintitle.com. Let them put their experience to work for you.
And we're back here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Spinell, Mitchell Balla here to talk more about athletics. So now we wanted to transition this over to, high school golf. Because last night, I posted about this on BigTimeSportsOhio.com as well as JordanMiller.news, but there was a performance, I think, of a lifetime in a triangular match over at Wilkshire. And I want to make sure that we get this out here because, a lot of the other fall sports, because football has gotten so big, they don't really get as much coverage. Trying to change that over here at BTS. We want to make sure that everybody gets an equal amount of time more often now. But Sandy Valley had a triangular match with East Canton and Conotton Valley on last night at Wilkshire. And I don't know if you've ever played a Wilkshire match. It's kind of a tighter course over in Bolivar. It's kind of just right off the highway from my route over to Canton. And it's a smaller course, but it's a tighter one because the trees and the foliage in the roughs are for golfers like me who used to spray their tee shots, and try to work their way out of it. It can be very difficult, but if you're a straight shooter, you're good. You can hit many of the par fours pretty closely, and it seemingly looks like there was one golfer from Sandy Valley last night who ended up really doing much of that, and that was Cardinal senior Connor Ritter, who did two things last night that you could only probably see once in a lifetime. His 9-hole score for the match was 27, which is 9 under par on Wilkshire's back 9. That's like shooting, and it's, again, if you double it for 18 holes, that's 54, which is by far breaks the low for a professional round on the PGA. But he also carded 2 eagles, and that's not even the big thing. The big thing was that he had a hole-in-one on the 14th hole at Wilkshire. It was a 185-yard par 3. That's according to the scorecard, and where I assume that the teams will tee off. And I just wanted to make sure I got that note out there because that's one of the most amazing athletic achievements I think we've seen in not just the IVC, but the area so far this year.
Oh, you have to give him his flowers. Not only, pick which one you want, because just one of those feats that you named out of the 3, Mitch, deserves the flowers. Setting the record there, 27, 9 under on par, phenomenal, right? I'm sure a lot of golfers out there would love to do that. 2 eagles. I'm sure a lot of golfers would love to do that. You see how excited people get, in professional golf of when, just eagle alone, or, you do get a hole in one, that you're talking about a senior now in the area that just was incredible. Practically insane. Like you said, it's a once in a lifetime thing that most of us are going to see in that type of effort. And you want to talk to me about being locked in. Golf is frustrating, Mitch. It's why I don't play it too much, but just a remarkable performance. And, you just wonder, well, what's next, right? What is next?
A lot of good is expected to be coming out of the Cardinals in the next few weeks. They are 10-2 right now, 7-2 in conference play. And Ritter, he is the reigning Division II state champion. I was at his final round last year over at North Star out in Sunbury, and he was able to pull off the victory. It was interesting seeing him as the lone representative for Sandy Valley be able to take on many of the other competitors in that tournament. So, he's very well on his way to potentially repeating as the state champion. So big props to him. So that is that's what we wanted to make sure we got out there, because that's a huge story that, once again, you can find on BigTimeSportsOhio.com. The headline the headline Sandy Valley's Connor Ritter nails hole-in-one at Wilkshire in 9 under par performance. So make sure to check that one out. So when we come back, it's the big preview show for, obviously, week 1 of the NFL season, not just for week 1, by the way, but for the entire campaign. When we come back, I want to do something different, Mitch. We had different plans for the next 3 segments. I want to take next segment to highlight both the AFC and the NFC predictions. We'll do the playoffs and the awards predictions in segment 4, and the last one we're just going to do a pick 'em here for segment 5. So we'll come back right after this.
The Furby Electric Supply Company has bright ideas for your home. Save money by converting to energy-efficient electrical products or add ambiance with beautiful lighting features. It begins with a professional consultation and a visit to the Furby Lighting Showroom. Then certified Furby contractors complete your project right and on time. Since 1934, 4 generations have built a reputation of quality and trust, and they offer emergency services too. Just visit Furby.com. That's Furbay, the Furby Electric Supply Company.
Fall is in the air and part-time career enhancement courses at Buckeye Career Center are on the horizon. Registration is now open for Introduction to Beekeeping, Basic Small Engine Repair, and Sign Language. These part-time offerings run on Tuesday evenings and begin in November. Let Buckeye Career Center help you learn a new skill or advance your current skill set. Call 330-339-2288 for more information or to reserve your seat in one of these or our other part-time classes.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
When others treat your fries as an afterthought, all you're left with are cold, soggy fries. That's why Wendy's new fries are ones you won't forget, guaranteed to be hot and crispy, or we'll replace them. We're talking natural cut, skin-on fries, perfectly seasoned with a hint of sea salt. In fact, they're even preferred almost 2-to-1 over McDonald's. These are fries so hot and crispy, they beg a new question.
What would you like with your fries?
Try them today, only at Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, taste preference based on a national taste test by an independent research company.
And we're back here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Spinell and Mitchell Balla here. And it is now time to get into week 1 of the NFL season, as well as just the NFL season in general. We have gotten through the offseason. We've gotten through the preseason, Mitch. It is now time here to get into professional football once again. We're going to have many, many Sundays and a few Mondays and Thursdays seemingly unavailable now as we soak in the greatness of the NFL.
This is the best time of the year. That's how I opened the show, Mitch. I'm so excited. I mean, you want to talk about just kicking off the NFL season tonight, you know, when people are listening to this episode, once it's out, between the Bills and the Rams.
Yep.
And surprisingly, I know we're going to get into it in the 5th segment, but you just look at the spread and how it opened. I mean, you talk about a team opening up, defending their Super Bowl run last year, but the road team being favored. I mean, great game to kick off. And I was actually going through, call me crazy, all 18 weeks today. You know, a couple buddies of mine, we go through and do pick 'em every week. And I was listing every single game matched up through the 18 weeks. And there is a great game every week just based off of paper right now. Obviously, some things will change, but I don't care. I don't need to look that far down the road. Week 1 is here. My team is playing. There's going to be a lot of good games, and fantasy football is back and well. And I'm going to let a make-believe team that I drafted control my emotions for the next 4 months.
So you are a fantasy player. That's something that I never really have gotten into. It's just, I think I tried one year, and the hustle and bustle every week of making sure your spots were filled and trying to make yourself this makeshift general manager and like trying to figure out if a trade was good or not. I think I might have traded somebody big away, and that was just sort of the end for me.
It happens. The first time I ever played, I didn't know what I was doing. I had an auto-drafted team.
Yeah.
I ended up winning the very first year, but I did get yelled at by my dad because I dropped 2 guys that were running back ones. But like I said, I had no idea what I was doing.
Who were the guys?
This is way back when Pierre Thomas was the starting running back for the New Orleans Saints.
Okay.
And it was not, I'm trying to think who the running back was for Baltimore before Ray Rice, but after
Jamal Lewis?
After Jamal Lewis.
Oh.
Maybe it was
Mark
Ray
Ingram?
No, I whatever I know is I just got questions like, why are you dropping these guys? I said, well, they had a bye week. I had to pick somebody up, not realizing you really never supposed to drop RB1s. But hey, I won that year, and it's been a bumpy ride up and down. I'm in a couple leagues. I'm a commissioner in one league, and let me tell you, it controls my emotions more than I should let it, but I'm here for it and I love it.
I hear it. So the first segment we want to start off with our NFL predictions is going over some of the standings and final predictions for teams' records. So starting off in the AFC, we have I want to go through the usual hierarchy and divisions because we have it usually goes east, north, South and West on many boards that I see. I want to start off in the East because this seems like one of the easier ones to pick. For years, when we were growing up, we would always pencil in the Patriots as the number one team in the division, sometimes the conference even. But this has changed in the last few years. A lot of changes made in personnel, obviously, and now it's become Buffalo's time to really run away with the division. Mitch, I'm assuming you have Buffalo as your division winner, so kind of take me through the second, third, and fourth spots that you have.
Well, you're right, Mitch. I'm taking the Bills all the way, and I'm not sure if many other people are going to have anything different other than fans of the other three teams in this division. But I mean, look, right now the Bills are just the runaway favorite to win the AFC right now, and for good reason. I mean, this is a team that was 13 seconds away from last year from advancing to the AFC Championship game, and they bring back a lot. They add Von Miller, so the Bills here are clear cut away the best team in the AFC East by far. Second team. And this might, ruffle some feathers out there, shock some people. I'm taking the Dolphins. I am not a Tua believer, but I am a head coach Mike McDaniel's believer. I think that he is the next quote unquote young offensive guru, like we've seen with LaFleur up in Green Bay. We've seen with McVay out in Los Angeles. Granted, they have some amazing talent, but if Tua can just play average football and be mistake free, you let your playmakers do all the work. And I just don't know how the Dolphins have a lot of weapons. I feel like they're under the radar, Mitch. And this is a team that has an easier schedule than most. And so that's why I'm picking them second. I'm not a believer in the Patriots. I think Belichick's the greatest coach of all time, or at least one of them.
Yeah.
I think their defense will be solid, but I am not a Mac Jones believer. I think that after a year of playing, he will see some big time. He will take some big steps back. I'll put it that way. I think, sophomore slump is what I expect. Their weapons are just, granted, they haven't always been great, but this isn't Tom Brady anymore. Okay. I mean, there's nobody that impresses me. You don't have Gronk. So the Patriots are third for me. And then the Jets are the Jets, Mitch. I don't know why people are excited. Zach Wilson's out for the first 4 weeks. We found out today. Joe Flacco will be starting, and that's like Grandpa Joe Flacco. And just, I don't know. I'm not a Jets fan, and I can't see them winning more than 6 games.
Yeah, you're with me on the first and fourth place teams because obviously the Bills are going to run away with it, and I don't think the Jets are going to be the worst NFL team, but it's definitely not going to be a great year. Second, though, I did have the Patriots initially because I thought, they actually had a decent run last year, getting back into the playoffs and not becoming like a major contender, but you can see what happens. But this one I might have to swap because Miami, you put up a good point about McDaniel, and again, Tua, I think, can go either way. You obviously bring in a huge piece like Tyreek Hill in, and that can be something that's very good. I think they're going to be around that 8 to 9 game win range, and I think I will take them in second now. I'm going to bump New England down to about 7-10, 6-11, and I think New England takes a bit of a step back this year. But I wouldn't be surprised if New England actually ran it back with a similar record, similar outcome. Mac Jones is still developing, and I think they could be a fringe wild card team is where I think they're best at right now. Same with Miami in where I think they're going to go. I want to skip over the North because I want to save that for later on the thing. Let's go to the South. I think it's a 2-man race. I think the Colts and the Titans are the only ones that are really in there. I think the Titans take a back seat this year, and the Colts getting Matt Ryan in the offseason, stabilizing their offense a little bit more. Frank Reich can do a little bit more with what he has now. Defense can still do some good things. I think the Colts are around the 10-win range. Tennessee right behind them. Jacksonville and Houston are just left with the scraps. It could be a back and forth between those two teams, for me at least, as to who is going to be drafting first overall come next spring.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. This is a 2-man race, and ultimately I have the Colts winning it. I think, like you said, you upgrade from Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan. That's a big-time upgrade. You have what a lot of people are saying is the preseason offensive player of the year in Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. And then Matt Ryan being able to throw the ball around instead of Carson Wentz, I think will only help make some of those playmakers on the outside better for the Colts. Frank Wright, older coach in terms of the young wave that we've seen with head coaches in the NFL right now, but good offensive mind. Keep in mind, that's the offensive coordinator that led the Eagles to the Super Bowl championship with Nick Foles as the quarterback. Mitch, the Titans are interesting. I think it all depends on Derrick Henry. And he missed 9 games last year. And that this is a team that still made the playoffs. They lost on a walk-off field goal from Evan McPherson, but you traded AJ Brown and then you signed Robert Woods in the offseason, who's coming off a torn ACL. Now you drafted Treylon Burks, who I was always enamored with out of Arkansas, big physical wide receiver. But the one thing I'll say about this is I think Mike Vrabel is a very underrated coach. So I can't just say that the Titans are going to lay down here and suck, because I don't think they will.
No,
I don't think they have enough firepower to try to win or to overtake the Colts and win it. And like you said, Jag Texans, it's a toss up. I don't think they're going to be the worst teams to have the number one pick. I think the Texans actually, I'm excited to watch them, because people forget Davis Mills was actually the top ranked quarterback in his class when he came out of high school. And so that's got to be in there still somewhere. You have Nico Collins, a wide receiver too, Brandon Cooks. It's a team that might surprise a little bit, or some people, not make the playoffs, but just in terms of win losses. And the Jags dumped all that money in the wide receiver room. Super unpopular take. I'm not a Trevor Lawrence believer. I personally don't think he's going to be anything other than an average NFL quarterback. So I'm not going to concern take up any more time with those two teams.
Yeah, as like I said, Titans fringe wild card. Colts will probably take the division at some point. So then out in the West, this might be the most competitive of the AFC, because all four of these teams could be playoff worthy, and three of these teams I could easily see winning the division now. With LA and Kansas City, I think that's where one of my first big hot takes of the year is. I think LA is going to get the edge over KC in the in-division matchups and end up winning the division, even if they have a similar record to the Chiefs. So I'm going to take the Chargers 1, Chiefs 2. I'm going to have Denver right behind them, maybe a double-digit wins. We'll see what happens with Russell Wilson now at the helm, especially now for at least the next 7 or so odd years. And then the Raiders, I have them actually getting off to a pretty bad start, but then having a complete turnaround come around week 5 or 6. And I could see them maybe going in the 6 or 7 win range. But I think right now it's Chargers, Chiefs, and Broncos, who could actually end up having 3 teams being representing itself in the postseason.
And I'm glad you said that last part. They could have 3 teams in the postseason. And that's something we'll talk about probably here later on. But I'm actually the complete opposite of you, Mitch, and call me crazy. First things first, I'm going to just put it out there. I will not buy the Chargers until they prove it. They have a coach that literally cost them a playoff spot last year because of his inability of clock management and how to go and how many times they went for it on 4th down. And I'm not just talking about the last game of the season. There was numerous times that Brandon Staley just went for it on 4th downs. I believe there was one instance last year they went for it on 4th and 18 and ran the ball. I remember when the Browns did that back in 2019 on 4th and 9, they ran the ball, and we were pretty upset with Freddie Kitchens. Herbert, everyone wants to anoint this quarterback as the next big thing. Prove it to me, because in my opinion, he hasn't proven anything yet. And I'm not a believer in him yet. I think he's a very good quarterback, but Mitch, I'm buying the hype. I'm going with the team that made the biggest splash in the offseason. I'm taking the Broncos to win the division. I think this is going to be Russell Wilson's perhaps one of his best years, or in most recent years, because I do think Pete Carroll limited him a little bit in Seattle. And now you go over here with a new head coach in what I believe is Nathaniel Hackett. That is the offensive coordinator coming over from Green Bay. You've seen what he's done under Aaron Rodgers. Now, I'm not saying that he's responsible for Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. But I love the Broncos, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Williams, and Melvin Gordon, the third in the backfield. I love it. And then second, I can't believe I'm saying this because I've been so down on them in years past. Give me the Raiders. I think Devontae Adams makes that team so much better. And then you add the ability of an offensive-minded coach, second time around in Josh McDaniels. Remember, he was in Denver before with Tebow. And Derek Carr, whether you love him or hate him, is technically, according to statistics, the most clutch quarterback in the NFL. He has the most comeback or go-ahead fourth quarter drives in the NFL, I believe, since 2016. What I believe has been, if I saw it correctly, 22. So I just like that. I think Hunter Renfrow is a great wide receiver. You have Waller. I think their running game is going to be a little suspect. But I'm going Broncos 1, Raiders 2, Chiefs 3, Chargers 4.
Chiefs 3 and Chargers 4.
Mitch, here's why. You lose Tyreek Hill. You cannot replace that speed. I think everyone can agree with that.
Sure.
That is Pat Mahomes' number 1 target. And listen, this division could literally go any way. I think all 4 of these teams are better than most other teams in the AFC.
I agree.
And I think that ultimately only 2 teams will get in because these teams are going to beat each other up. But the reason I'm going Chiefs 3 is because we've seen it with a lot of other teams. And last year, for example, was the Baltimore Ravens, off to a phenomenal start. Lamar goes down. You had all those injuries in training camp. The Chiefs haven't faced any adversity in the past 3 seasons. Now Mahomes loses his number 1 wide receiver. I don't know if you want to say target because Kelsey's still there. And, that's an argument our fans can have with each other. They faced no adversity. And it's going to come eventually. I'm not sitting here wishing ill will on them or wishing somebody gets hurt because that's not what I want. But there's going to come a point in time where they're going to finally face some adversity besides just the playoffs or in the Super Bowl. And it's going to be interesting to see how Pat Mahomes handles it and how the rest of this team handles it, because I think this offense is going to take a little bit of a step back without Tyreek Hill, and their defense is not that great, people.
I mean, okay, the defense I can maybe give you a little bit. It does kind of help if you replace a guy like Hill with a guy who isn't obviously as explosive or fast, but Juju Smith-Schuster, you get him on a cheap 1-year deal. The Chiefs have done this a few times where they've gotten veteran, former All-Pro, Pro Bowl worthy players for these short-term deals. I mean, I saw Le'Veon Bell, it happened to him. Josh Gordon, I think, was there for a little bit. So they've been able to kind of get these guys for a reduced price. And then Marquez Valdez-Scantling coming over from Green Bay after a couple of years. He's never been the most flashy guy. I think the receiving corps is still competent enough, especially when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes throwing you the football. You're always going to be in competitive mode when he's going to be on your team. So I think the Chargers right now are the more refined offense, and I think they can actually go pound for pound with Kansas City. And then Denver, I think, can really be a good, like, one of the first wild card teams you see because they can put up potentially double-digit wins. So obviously now we go over to the North. This is our division, and I don't think you're going to like what I'm going to have to say, so I'm going to let you start off first. Just tell me what it is, because I gotta simmer on mine.
Well, see, now I'm worried because I think you're either going to be the same way as me, or maybe you flip-flopped it and you went full Browns mode. And so I'm not sure what to do, but I'm going to just tell people right now and everybody out in the audience, if I haven't come clean yet, I'm a very pessimistic Browns fan when it comes to the season, just based off what I've experienced in my lifetime. Every time I have expectations, they suck, they hurt me, and I'm tired of it. And so I've told myself, hey, if you go into it thinking they're going to suck like I did in 2020, and they end up making the playoffs, it's a great season. But Mitch, this is different. I think the writing's on the wall for what this team is. I've been very adamant about what my feelings are with the Browns quarterback situation. This is a team that, unfortunately, I don't think gets out of the basement of the AFC North this year. So I'll start from the bottom up. I think the Browns finish 4th in the division. I think if Jacoby Brissett gets you 4 wins in the 11 games he's starting, it's phenomenal. I don't see any way he gets more than 4 after those first 4 games, because those opponents are tough. At number 3, I will go with the Cincinnati Bengals. And people probably got to say, why? The Bengals went to the Super Bowl. They did. The post-Super Bowl hangover is real. And this is also a team that people tend to forget had the easiest schedule out of any team in the AFC North last year. And now they go to one of the hardest schedules in the NFL. I'm not a believer that they revamped their offensive line to a point to protect Joe Burrow. Most sack quarterback last year, 52 sacks, and he was phenomenal. I just think that this team's going to take a little step back. I still think they'll be a very good football team. Their defensive line is, to me, very underrated, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to handle playing a top team almost every week in, week out. I know they play the Jets, I believe I saw on their schedule. They have a couple layups, but I'm going to put them 3rd just because I want to see it happen again. 2nd, I'm taking the Steelers. Any Steelers team with Mike Tomlin as the head coach, I'm not counting out. He's never had a season under 500, although last year was the closest thing we've ever seen to it.
Yeah. And
they still made the playoffs with Big Ben Roethlisberger hobbling around back there. If Mitch Trubisky plays mistake-free football like we've said about Jacoby Brissett, the Steelers might be a team that gets into the wild card. I don't have them there, I'll be honest with you. But the Steelers, just strictly off the defense and the standard that they have in Pittsburgh, I have 2nd. And then I have the Baltimore Ravens 1st. If they stay healthy, you have a quarterback that looks like he's going to bet on himself, Mitch. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. But if I'm a betting man, I think it's a great thing for the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, because he's going to do everything he can to help this team win. And so that it ends up resulting in either A, hoisting a Lombardi trophy, or B, getting paid, or C, both. But I just think the Ravens are the best team in the division. Whether you think they have good wide receivers or not, I'm going to bet on Lamar Jackson right now.
So really quick, answer me this: how many when you put the Browns in fourth, how many games would you expect them to finish? How many wins would you expect them to finish this year?
5-12.
5. Okay, because I have them in fourth place, but I think I have them going in the 7 and 8 game range. Because here's the thing, I think you can pencil in 4 wins for Jacoby during his time before the bye. You're probably gonna win against the Jets. You're probably gonna win against the Falcons. I could see them winning at home against the Pittsburgh, and I could see them stealing a game against New England. They're not gonna beat Baltimore the first time. They're not gonna beat Cincinnati the first time. They're not gonna beat the Chargers or the Bills the first time. And then after that, I think Deshaun can win you a few more of those games. He can win the game at the second game with Baltimore, win the second game against Cincinnati, and then the game against Washington, a game against Houston, obviously, his first game back. It's going to be tough because of where the other teams are in the division. That's what I'm strictly going on. I don't necessarily know if the Browns will be kind of shooting themselves in the foot so much this year. But yeah, I'm going to go with around that 7 to 8 game range because I have Pittsburgh at number 3. And you mentioned it, Mike Tomlin, as long as he's the head coach, they always seem to overachieve, even if they don't have the pieces that they need. They had a better record than the Browns when they went an entire year while Ben Roethlisberger was out with an injury. But that's with the what's the kind of term for it? That is with the sort of asterisk of sorts that Kenny Pickett is eventually going to be the starter at some point this season. That's another one of my hot takes. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know when Goat Bisky is going to be able to be relegated to second starter, but I think he'll at some point take over, and you might actually see improvement. I mean, I think Pittsburgh's going to be around 500 team. Second will be Cincinnati. I think they'll still be a decently solid team. They'll have a tougher schedule, obviously, but you have the pieces in there to be able to get back to the playoffs or near the playoffs at least, because I was about to say there. And then Baltimore will be number 1. I still don't think this necessarily rules out Lamar Jackson potentially signing elsewhere next offseason, but the talks will obviously go into the year. I don't know if we'll see an extension at some point. And then he might look at something like Miami where he might be like, things are looking good down there where I used to live. Where I grew up, Tyreek Hill's there. We, got bounced in the playoffs again. Let's see what happens.
Love to see that as a Browns fan.
I'll say so is the rest of the conference. Going over from the AFC to the NFC now. We want to start off in the East, obviously. This one's easy for me. Dallas and Philadelphia are going to run in with it. Washington and New York are going to get left behind. I did actually have Dallas a game ahead of Philadelphia. I think I could go either way. I think that Dallas, for as good as their offense can be, they still have those question marks, especially with McCarthy as the head coach. But is yours? I'm assuming yours is Philadelphia winning the division.
It is. I think that the addition of AJ Brown on the outside, to where I don't know what you want to say who wide receiver 1 and 2 is between AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Hurts, I think, had a lot of ups. He definitely had some downs last year, but I think big things for him this year. But to your point, Mitch, it's Philly. Dallas, I could see it happening, but it's one of those two teams. You can't convince me right now that the New York Giants or the Washington Commanders are a threat to win the NFC least.
No, and I could see Washington maybe scraping together 5 to 6 wins compared to a few less from New York. But yeah, it's not going to be. This is the same thing that happens in the East for the last I don't know how many years now, where it just sort of seems like one team wins the division, and then they get bounced in the playoffs almost immediately, except if you're the Eagles from a few years ago. Going over to the North now, this is the Packers, Vikings, Lions, and Bears. This is another one easy for me. Packers are taking this one, no doubt. I know that losing Devontae Adams to the Raiders hurts. I think Aaron Rodgers is still primed to have another potential most valuable player season. And Minnesota could even surprise some people. I know they had a bit of a rough patch last year, but they ended up still ending respectably. And they could maybe slip in as one of those fringe wildcard teams. And then I actually have Detroit and Chicago as one of the outside the top 5 or the bottom 5, I guess, of NFL team finishes. I still don't think they're going to be winning records, but I think they're going to be at least competitive for some other teams that are right around that 500 mark.
To your point, I'll keep it short and simple because I'd rather talk about the 2 bottom teams here. This is the Packers division. I think the Vikings, honestly, though, Mitch, are going to be one of a few teams to surprise a lot of people this year just based off the offseason moves they made. I'm excited to see what happens there. I'm not a Kirk Cousins believer, but maybe he makes me eat my words this year. Who knows? But Packers will win the division again. As long as Aaron Rodgers is in that division, Mitch, it's hard to bet against him based off what we've seen in the past. But to your point, I'm going to have to disagree with you because I think that the worst team in the NFL when it comes to record is in this division, and it's the Chicago Bears. I think that Justin Fields is going to be running forever, pretty much, because the offensive line is going to be that bad.
Right.
I don't know if there's many people out there in the audience that, besides Bears fans potentially, that can even tell me who their second receiver is in Chicago. Just new head coach, but he's a defensive minded head coach, and Matt Eberflus. It's hard to see why. Well, it's not hard to see why the Bears always struggle based off what we've seen the past couple of years with Matt Nagy. But to me, just this is a team that lacks a lot of talent. I really hope that I'm wrong here because I think Fields could have a very successful NFL career. But Mitch, it looks like they're setting him up for failure already. It looked like it last year. It looks like it again. And the Lions don't have a lot of talent, but damn, am I hoping they're good because Hard Knocks got me, Mitch. It got me. Dan Campbell got me. I want to go play for the Detroit Lions.
I know. That's just it's the reality compared to what you want as a dream in the NFL. Then going over to the South, another easy one. Tampa Bay is going to run away with this one. I swear, Mitch, you better not have one of these other teams up here because these other teams don't have the talent that Tampa Bay has for this year. And this is probably Tampa Bay's weakest year with Tom Brady. They're still going to run away with this thing.
Tom Brady is a year older.
Yeah.
He doesn't like internal pressure from the line. If you look at, some things, your center and Jensen is out.
Yep.
Your one guard is retired. He has been
tight ends retired.
Yeah. He's been away for a while this off season, reasons still unknown. Mitch, they're going to make the playoffs. Let me just put that right now. The Bucks are making the playoffs.
Who's winning the division? Just tell me.
The Saints.
Oh my God. We could not be more opposite.
Give me, you know what? I'll just tell you right now. Give me my comeback player of the year in Jameis Winston.
Oh, for the love of
in the
God.
New Orleans Saints, because he's thrown to hopefully Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, a defense that is always one of the above average defenses of the NFL, and they're going to have a weaker schedule, right? You're going to get to beat up on the Falcons twice. This is a team that has the Buccaneers number. Literally, they beat them 38-3 last year in Tampa.
Yeah.
The only time Tom Brady's beaten him is the one game in the playoffs. So sure, yeah, okay, he beat him when it matters. This is a team that psychologically is in the Buccaneers' head. Give me the New Orleans Saints.
I can't put the Saints in first place. I can't even put them in second place. I think they can make a third place finish just behind Carolina, maybe 7 or 8 game range. I think Carolina is like 8 and 9 game range. And then New Orleans is 7 to 8. Atlanta's probably going to finish in 4th, but yeah, I don't know. I can't see it. So then finally we go over to the West. I think this is also a 2-man race because while Arizona did make the playoffs last year and is capable of doing a lot offensively and gave Kyler Murray that extension, I think this is going to be a fringe 500 team. Mm-hmm. And LA and the Rams and the Niners are just going to go at it again. Rams are going to far and away win the division, but the Niners will still at least be competitive. Even though they got that weird situation at quarterback right now, they still have a good rest of the team that I think you can still do some good. And then Seattle's going to be one of the bottom 5 teams in the league this year.
They're going to be a bottom 5 team, but I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch because I think their quarterback, whether it's Geno Smith or Drew Lock, every time they drop back to pass, you're going to wonder, is it going to our team or the other team? So they're going to be entertaining to watch unless you're a Seahawks fan. And if that's the case, I don't feel bad for you because I'm a Browns.
I don't think it's going to be fun for Seattle fans either way.
Well, try doing it for 18 years like I did as a Browns fan. So now you're welcome to our world. Yeah. I think the Rams win this division far and away. To your point, the Cliff Kingsbury experiment to me has always been a weird one, Mitch. This is a guy that literally went 500 in college with who was his quarterback at Texas Tech? Do you happen to know who that was?
I do, but I'd rather hear you say it.
Pat Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
Is he? I believe he's pretty good after what we've seen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he goes to USC and he leaves from USC right away and comes to the NFL. And now you have a quarterback that is very physically gifted in Kyler Murray. He's not. I don't know if you want to say serious about the game if you have to put into his new contract that he has to study film 4 hours a week.
Right.
And then make sure it gets out there to the public. The Rams are the best team in this division. I think the Rams are one of the best teams in the entire NFC and NFL. I think they far and away run away with it. I think it's a toss-up between second and third between the Cardinals and Niners. I think the Niners, Mitch, are the team that you have to keep an eye on because I've said it in a couple episodes. If Trey Lance does not pan out, there's going to be somebody in San Francisco who's going to lose a job. And I think that is a reason they re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the main reason, because they just want to ensure that they have insurance. I mean, Jimmy has proven himself capable of quarterbacking a team to 2 NFC championships and a Super Bowl. Now, granted, he wasn't the main catalyst for those runs, but he's not the guy that takes away from it either, like a lot of people, I think, make him out to be. And Lance, I think, is just a project that needed a lot of development. Again, I was very surprised when they traded up for him. I thought, okay, this is Fields' time. This is it. We're going to get him in the Niners. It's going to be awesome. Then they say Trey Lance, and it's like, okay. But we'll see what happens there. And then we'll see what happens in this next segment when we go over some of the playoff predictions, as well as the last one where we we'll do the prediction, the playoffs, and the awards. And then some hot takes in there as well if you want to throw them out there. And then the last one, we'll do the week 1 pick'em. So we'll come back right after this.
Buying a home has never been so affordable with record low interest rates. Hartzler's Quality Housing is ready to put over 40 years of experience to work for you. Family owned and operated since 1978, Hartzler's has a wide selection of model homes on site with a knowledgeable team to help make your new home a reality. Open 6 days a week. Visit them off I-77 in Dover or online at hartzlers.com. Hartzler's Quality Housing. Quality from start to finish.
You invest a lot in your home and vehicle purchases. Van Nostrand Young and Associates want you to feel secure should anything happen to those investments. We partnered with providers like Grange Insurance and other industry leaders to be sure you're presented with the most complete coverage to fit your needs. Because we're not only here to protect the items you invest in, we're here to protect your future as well.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
When others treat your fries as an afterthought, all you're left with are cold, soggy fries. That's why Wendy's new fries are ones you won't forget, guaranteed to be hot and crispy, or we'll replace them. We're talking natural cut, skin-on fries, perfectly seasoned with a hint of sea salt. In fact, they're even preferred almost 2-to-1 over McDonald's. These are fries so hot and crispy, they beg a new question.
What would you like with your fries?
Try them today, only at Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, taste preference based on a national taste test by an independent research company.
Back here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show, Mitch Spinell and Mitchell Balla here to give you more NFL predictions after we just went through our standings expectations. Mitch, I noticed you've been wearing the number 32 jersey during this time, the old Jim Brown here. And it's funny that you have that because I have right here the old school sleeves that I got on eBay a few years ago. It kind of looks, it's a weird shape on my body, but I like it. I like that I have the sleeved one, the old school classic one. And that is one of 2 Browns jerseys that I own. Comment below which, the people on YouTube, comment below which second Browns jersey you think I have. I'll give you a hint. It's from this century. So this one I want to go over to now is the playoff predictions, because obviously you can't have an NFL season without the postseason. I guess you probably could, because baseball proved that to us in '94, but the NFL has never proved it itself. But I do want to go over some of the playoff predictions, starting off from the AFC wild card. Both wild cards. We'll do it by round of playoffs. We won't do it by conference. I want to start off in the AFC, though, because my hierarchy of the AFC, Mitch, is going to be, I got, from first to 4, I have the Bills, Ravens, Chargers, and the Colts. And then my 5, 6, and 7 for the wild cards are the Chiefs, Broncos, like I mentioned, 3 West teams in the playoffs, and the Titans. So I think the Titans get the advantage over the Bengals, leaving them out. So that's going to be interesting coming from a team that made that run to the Super Bowl last year. I see Tennessee maybe getting that spot by one matchup that they have early on in the year, I believe.
That's interesting. I like that a lot, but I mean, I think it's pretty obvious who the number one seed is going to be in the AFC. It's going to be the Bills.
Yeah.
After that, I actually think that it's a toss up for 2 and 3 between the Colts and Ravens. Personally, I think the Colts are going to win between 11 and 12 games, and I think that could be enough to get the 2 seed because, Mitch, to what I mentioned earlier in a previous segment, I think the AFC West contains some of the best teams in all the NFL. They're going to beat up on each other, though. And I mean, even if you split, you're talking about 3 losses on each side. It's tough. So I personally think that the AFC West winner is going to be looking at the 3 or 4 seed in the AFC, unless, something remarkable happens, or, maybe they get lucky and, other teams go down. Who knows? I have the Ravens, though, right now as the 3 seed, and then the Broncos. But my 2 wild cards, that's where we're going with this, right?
Well, I was going to say, wasn't it expanded this year?
Is it expanded this year? Am I that far out of touch?
No, I was going to say, I think it was expanded to 3 wildcard teams this season, isn't it?
I thought so when I was doing this earlier, and then I talked myself out of it. So if that's the case, then I know who I'm taking. But my wild card teams right now, my 1 and 2 wild cards, my number 1, I actually have the Raiders, because like I said, I think they're going to be a very improved team. I like what they're going to be able to do offensively. Number 2, a surprise to some people, I have the Miami Dolphins, because like I said, if Tua just plays average football and more so just gets the ball to Tyreek Hill and lets him run wild, I think Mike McDaniel is going to be so crafty with that offense and what he can do that I really like the chances they have right there. So yeah, I know I see that look already when I said Miami Dolphins in the playoffs. A lot of people, my one friend, Sebastian, who is a Miami Dolphins fan, who, might be listening to this. I know he's got a huge smile on his face right now. And I guess we're picking a 3rd wild card team then. And if that's the case, I talked myself out of it earlier, but now I'm sitting here talking myself into the AFC West can get 3 teams in, and they can. And if that's the case, give me the Chiefs.
So you'd have the Chiefs as the last wild card team in. That would be a fascinating juxtaposition from the last couple of years.
You'd hate to be the team that plays them.
Yeah, because I was going to say, in the AFC wild card, I actually do have, or I had the Ravens beating the Titans, because I think they would have the home advantage, and they've beaten them in the playoffs before. Broncos, I actually have beating the Chargers in LA, because I think Russell Wilson would be, and a number of those Bronco players would be more playoff experience than a lot of the guys on the Chargers, especially with Justin Herbert. So I think you would still get the Chargers into the postseason, but they have to Herbert and them have to take those baby steps in order to become a powerhouse in the AFC, especially within their own division. And then I actually do have the Chiefs over the Colts. So that would be 2 notable seeds in the AFC playoffs, 3 and 4 going down in the first round. So then going over to the NFC, I ended up going with the Packers as number 1. The Rams is number 2. Because I have the Packers going 14-3, and that's going to be like far and away the best record in the NFL. The Buccaneers at 3 and Dallas at 4, despite having similar records. And then 5, 6, and 7 will be Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Minnesota in that order. So it's going to be a little similar to last year. So for the wild card, I had the Rams beating the Vikings just by default. Buccaneers beating the Niners, which I actually saw in a few mock prediction things here, that the 49ers, some 49ers and Buccaneers matchups had San Francisco winning, and in division matchup in the wild card round, Eagles beating the Cowboys. I want to get your final playoff standings in the NFC and your wild card.
So I personally think that the team that's going to get the number 1 seed, whether you want to agree with it or not, and if you're this team, you might not want to based off what we've seen in previous season, but the Packers, just based off what they can do, I think they'll be the 1 seed yet again. I have the Rams as the 2 seed. I think you're talking about 2 teams right there, that are 2 of the top 3 teams in the NFL, no matter who you talk to, right? Whether you want to laugh at me for saying the Saints are going to win the division, that's fine. But, most of the time you're talking about 3 teams, and the Bucs are usually the 3rd, according to some people. I have the Eagles as the 3 seed. I think they win the NFC East. And then in the South, I would have the Saints being that 4th seed, because I have them winning the division. 5th seed, I have Bucs, my first wild card team. wild card team number 2, Minnesota Vikings. I think the Vikings. I think the Vikings. Look, the Saints and the Vikings are my 2 teams I think are going to surprise a lot of people in the NFC this year. I just, as much as I want to rag on Kirk Cousins, Mitch, there's times though he's actually put up a lot of good games, and I just feel like nobody pays attention.
I know,
and that's okay, because half the time you pay attention to Kirk Cousins, it's a primetime game, and he sucks because Kirk Cousins in primetime record wise is just abysmal. And then my wild card 3 team is actually, I don't want to say it at all, but I have to, strictly based off of who they play. It's going to be the Cowboys because they play in the NFC least. And yes, I keep saying least because in my opinion, it's the worst division in all of football. You've literally seen it before where a team can get in 500 with a losing record. They'll get in strictly because they're going to have 4 gimme wins between 2 in New York and 2 in Washington. And they'll find other wins around there, but that's also if Mike McCarthy gets out of his own way.
All right, so what's your, you just say your wild card predictions, or it was just the standings there?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's just who I have. I would have the Saints playing the Cowboys, which I'm taking the Saints. Mm-hmm. I would have the Rams playing the Vikings. I'll take I'm sorry, completely backwards. Packers over Cowboys, Saints over Vikings, Rams and the Bucks.
That's a good first round matchup.
And I think that's what people want to see. I mean, you remember that instant classic last year, just I literally, Mitch, I'm not even going to lie to you. I left my house because the Rams were up so much. I wanted to go get some dinner because I can't remember what game was on afterwards. And I'm sitting in the Canes parking lot searching what station I can find the game on because my phone's blowing up because they're like, oh my gosh, Tom Brady's going to do it again. I'm sitting there thinking there's no way. There's literally no way. And I thought that they were done. But strictly because it's going to be in Los Angeles, that is why I will take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to beat the Rams in Los Angeles, because why not?
Sounds good. Well, that leads us over to the divisional round where our 1s and 2s would then join. I actually do have in the AFC, I have the Bills and the Broncos. And again, another matchup where I saw some people say that the Broncos would actually win this matchup, but I'm going to go with the Bills. I think the offense would overpower Denver's defense, which is not extraordinary. I think you would need extraordinary defense in order to stop Buffalo from getting to at least the AFC title game. And then with the NFC, with the next game in the AFC, Ravens and Chiefs. Interesting little matchup there. And I think this is where Lamar Jackson might have a step-up game because he plays in Baltimore, because you have a lot of your guys returning this year. I'm going to say the Ravens beat the Chiefs, and we get a Bills and Ravens matchup in the AFC title game. So then in the NFC, I have the Packers and the Eagles, and that'll be an easier one for Aaron Rodgers, I think. It'll be Green Bay winning in that one, and then the Buccaneers. So it's funny. You had the Buccaneers and the Rams in the wild card game. I have Buccaneers and Rams in the divisional round, and I think that Brady gets his revenge here. I think I'm going to go with excuse me one second. I had misplaced my notes there. I think that the Buccaneers end up beating the Rams in this one. I think they're going to get a surprise victory in the divisional matchup leading into the NFC title game to end all NFC title games, or at least in terms of QB matchup, because it'd be Rodgers versus Brady. So who do you have in your AFC title game, and who do you think would be representing the conference in the World Championship game 2 weeks later?
Just like you, Mitch, I have the Ravens and Bills meeting in the divisional round, and I do have I do have Lamar Jackson moving on to the AFC Championship game, believe it or not. I think this is the year he's going to do it. And personally, Mitch, the reason I'm going away from the Bills is strictly because everybody in America is on the Bills, and you usually don't see everybody pick the same team and they get to the Super Bowl. And there's just so much that can go wrong, right? We could sit here and let's go back to this at the end of the football season. We might have to come paint our faces like a bunch of clowns because our picks were just so wrong, because we don't know what happens in the 18-week schedule. But I have the Ravens over the Bills in the divisional round. Ravens moving on to the AFC Championship. I have the Broncos and Colts in the divisional round. I have the Broncos defeating the Colts. So I have a Ravens-Broncos matchup, which I believe was the AFC Championship years ago when Peyton Manning was playing. This time, though, call me crazy, I am taking the Denver Broncos to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I have them beating the Ravens. So I have the Broncos moving on. And then in the NFC, let's just put it how it is. I'm not going to go through pick by pick because I actually have the Packers and the Buccaneers meeting in the NFC Championship yet again. And yet again, it is going to be a very, very, very long off season for Aaron Rodgers. I do have the Buccaneers winning the NFC Championship, and it will be a Buccaneers versus Broncos Super Bowl.
Buccaneers versus Broncos is interesting, which is, and that's the exact, okay. See, I was with you in terms of the Buccaneers at first because I thought Brady's coming back for another year. It didn't feel like he would leave his NFL career with a divisional round loss. I don't know, man, because we do have, like I said, Bills and Ravens in the AFC title game, and then Packers and Bucks in the NFC. I'm going to start with the NFC first. I think that the Packers get over the hump here. I think that they would have the thing about Lambeau Field is that it used to be the place where nobody would ever come and win in a playoff game. The only guy you ever heard about being able to do that was Michael Vick. And then a couple in the past years, they've had some instances where the Buccaneers, for example, and then of course what happened last year. I think Green Bay gets over the hump this time. I think they finally figured out how to work that offense effectively in the they'll figure out how to work it effectively in the postseason. And then in the AFC, you mentioned Bills and Broncos. I have Bills and Ravens. I think in this one, Buffalo's not going up against the KC offense like this, even though Baltimore's very good. Buffalo does make it to that Super Bowl. I think this is their season to make it back, and that's going to leave Baltimore up in the air as to where the contract talks will go with Lamar. And now, speaking of which, apparently Lamar just put up there was a report that came up a few minutes ago that said he is putting this Friday as the deadline for them to get a new contract extension. So we might actually see one here very soon, maybe as soon as when this episode gets out. But it'll be interesting to see where those talks are if the Ravens get that far in the postseason.
We're firing off hot takes right now, Mitch. So give me your hot take. Is he going to get a deal by Friday?
See, when we started the episode, one of my hot takes was going to be that I thought he might try to go sign in Miami after this season. But if he's giving them this deadline, I really think they're going to work hard enough to try and make sure that they get him enough guaranteed money to make him happy, because this was the whole thing he wanted. The Deshaun Watson contract has effectively ruined all quarterback negotiations for the rest of the league. They had to give Kyler Murray so much extended money. They're going to have to give Lamar so much extended money. Who knows what's going to happen in a couple of years when the guys like Joe Burrow and company are going to be investing long term.
Well, and for the quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson's probably sitting there seeing the Deshaun Watson deal, salivating, thinking, oh my gosh, I'm an MVP. I'm going to get that. And then you have Russell Wilson in Denver do the same thing, but only 185 guaranteed. And if you're Steve Bisciotti of the Ravens, you're thinking, oh, perfect. This is exactly what I needed, right? You're talking about a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And so I think it's messy. I think that Lamar thought he had all the advantage. And now I think Bisciotti's going to stand firm because he's been adamant. He does not believe in fully guaranteed deals for any NFL quarterback, let alone a quarterback that, when you play the style of Lamar Jackson, one hit could realistically knock you out. But I'll sit here and tell you, I don't think a deal gets done.
Okay. I mean, granted, that Wilson deal is mostly a big retirement package because he's going to be 40 by the time it runs out, and he'll probably be at the end. And Denver needed a long-term solution after years of just one and dones after Peyton Manning. So I have in my Super Bowl Packers and the Bills. You had Broncos and Buccaneers, is that correct? So who wins your hypothetical Super Bowl 57? I'm very fascinated as to see who would take this matchup one and done, or one to take it all.
Mitch, I haven't picked who wins yet. Because
that's cheating.
No. I'm going to pick right now.
Okay.
For you. I'm just telling you, as I sit here looking at my sheet, and I told you my buddies and I made all these predictions today. I'm looking at their list, and the one had coach to get fired first, Bill Belichick, which I almost lost my mind earlier. I have a team here with an asterisk next to it because I know I want to change it.
Okay.
And it kills me to say this because I know I shouldn't change it, because I just am so sick and tired of watching Tom Brady in Super Bowls. But what I have written down here with the asterisk next to it is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the Super Bowl. And
okay,
I bet on him. I bet against him so much in my life, and he just makes me look like a fool that part of me thinks if I bet on him, the Broncos will win, which is what I want to see because I'm tired of Tom Brady. But for the sake of this, just because typically he always gets there, I had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the Super Bowl.
Okay, so that would very much likely be the one that to finally ride Tom off into the sunset. And Yeah, I like that pick. It's not my personal pick because I have Packers and Bills in here as well. I think that when you look at a big game matchup like this, you go with experience. And I'm going to say that Aaron Rodgers, you thought he was going to go into the offseason, another long offseason. I think this is going to be sort of a renaissance year for him because of all the stuff that happened to him in the last like year or so. I mean, there's with the things about him not being able to finish in the playoffs and having to deal with all this sort of off the field noise from different things. I think that he finally wins his second title, cements himself among the all-time greats. I think he has had all-time great talent, but I don't know if anybody's really lumped him in yet with the Montanas and the Mannings and the Bradys of the world yet. And then Rodgers gets the second title to further cement that. So I'm going to say Packers over the Bills in the Super Bowl, which unfortunately puts Buffalo at 0-5. I hate to say that, and I don't think this would be the last time we could ever expect them to make it back. I just think that it's a tough game to win, and I think Green Bay is going to finally do it. So I got Packers over Bills in the Super Bowl. So that's going to be my prediction.
I hope you're right.
Yeah,
I love Aaron Rodgers. I do.
I do too.
I'll be out there. If you're talking about guys that aren't on the Browns that I love, Aaron Rodgers to me has been one of the best NFL players I've ever seen and watched in my life. Unfortunately, it gets harder and harder to defend him because I think when you talk about the GOAT argument, everybody can fight certain ways. I typically always say that if you want to say Brady's the GOAT on championships, that's fine. I think Rodgers is the most talented thrower of the football I've ever seen in my life. But it gets harder and harder to defend it every single year because they're usually a one and done team in the playoffs. So I hope my predictions are wrong and the Packers win it. Actually, I hope we're both wrong and the Browns somehow win it. But
yeah, I know. We'll have 2023 and 24 probably to be more confident in that sort of pick. But I hope we get the opportunity to confidently do so. So before we go into the final segment, I want to run through some of the predictions that we have for the NFL honors that they call. They don't call them awards, they call them honors. So I want to start off with MVP last. I want to actually go in reversal because you mentioned two categories that I did not have initially listed. I want to hear your first coach fired and your worst team because that feels like the more fun ones to speculate on. Let's start with worst team because I feel like it's different from first coach fired.
I think it is the worst team I have in the NFL is the Chicago Bears. I really don't see how this team could win more than 3 games unless Justin Fields is just a magical quarterback in the NFL and can overcome adversity. But Mitch, I personally, when you look at rosters around the league, I think the Bears have the least amount of talent.
See, I don't know, man. I think Fields can be a very solid NFL quarterback, and he might be able to will a game or two to victory for Chicago. I think it's the Texans because you mentioned David Mills, and it's just like, this is our guy. This is the starter for the whole year. And, even with all these draft picks they have now, it just feels like a team of waste. There's just nothing really there. Cooks is still kind of there. And you mentioned the one rookie they have, but it just feels like nothing. And I said Jacksonville could be in there as well.
Yeah.
Jacksonville, I think, is going to be significantly better than the chaos we saw last season. So I don't think I can put them there quite with the Texans, although it might be a little closer than who knows. But as far as first coach fired, and it's a guy that we've kind of brought up beforehand, and I mentioned he's going to go. I think he's going to go around 500 this year. After his quarterback got an extension, after making the playoffs last year, I'm going to go Cliff Kingsbury because I think there's going to be a lot of noise coming from Arizona. This team I don't think is going to meet the expectations some might put on it because the offense can do good things. You obviously lose DeAndre Hopkins for a significant portion of the season now. And this just doesn't feel like a team that is going to be able to catch up with LA or even San Francisco still. So I don't know. You usually see when you talk about the first coaches fired, you usually see the ones that are going to be like they're 2-12, they're 2-14 or whatever, but I don't know. I feel like there's something about this where they might they'll either decide really late in the year when they're out of the playoffs officially, or they are going to make a decision when they figure, you know what, we can get somebody better at this very moment and try to run it out for the rest of the season to try and make a desperate playoff sprint.
I like that pick a lot. That's actually who I had as the second option on my list, Mitch, because I'm not a Cliff Kingsbury believer, but You could have fired this coach after last season, I think, because of some questionable decisions he made. And I honestly think that the coach I'm about to pick is going to make the playoffs, and he's going to be the reason his team gets bowed out of the playoffs. And it's Mike McCarthy of the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
I think Mike McCarthy is on the hottest seat in the NFL for two reasons. I think he is not a very good NFL head coach, because I think that you had Aaron Rodgers for that long.
I was going to say, man, he's got one of these.
He does have one of those. But not only that, not only do I not think he's that great, there's a coach that retired that there's always been those rumors that he wants to go work for Jerry Jones. And, you know, all of a sudden it's heating up a little more here with Sean Payton. So you have to wonder, is Mike McCarthy just sitting there to warm the seat, and Jerry Jones is waiting for just another gaffe that Mike McCarthy is always good for? Okay, let's just put it how it is. He's always good for just a monumental gaffe some point in the season. And like I said, I forgot you had 3 wild card teams this year. I do have the Cowboys getting in because of how bad the division is, but they will lose in the first round. And I think McCarthy will be relieved of his duties the very next day.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think Jerry would wait. I don't think Jerry would do it mid-season. I don't think they've ever fired a coach during the season. I think they would wait it out personally, but I am kind of with you on that. I think he could see if they don't meet the standards that they want, and then getting Peyton would be very, very interesting, because you mentioned an assistant coach there under Parcells, and him and Dak together. Okay, that would be okay. Fun. So I want to go over to the positives, the positive awards now. Who would be let's start with offensive player of the year, because this doesn't necessarily mean most valuable player. There have been times where a lot of non-quarterback positional players will get it.
Not often do you see a team gain a weapon and there already be chemistry there. And we're going to get to see it this year, and it's going to be Devontae Adams in Las Vegas. I think that the Raiders are going to be a team. Like I said, right now I have them making the playoffs, but you're talking about a wide receiver quarterback combo that were teammates in college already. I think this is just going to be a perfect fit. Derek Carr finally gets wide receiver number 1. The Raiders finally get wide receiver number 1 since they've moved off Amari Cooper years ago. And I mean, you saw the numbers Adams put up in Green Bay. I think moving away from Aaron Rodgers, that a lot of people think is top 3 quarterback in the league, and going to someone like Derek Carr and then putting up perhaps the same, if not better numbers, will ultimately vault him into the offensive player of the year.
That's an interesting one. I think mine's a little hotter take than yours, because I mean, your guy, I think, will be contributing more to a winning team. I'm actually going to say Giants running back Saquon Barkley, because he's not going to be playing for a team that's going to be winning a lot. I get that, probably. But if they utilize him on the offense so much, he could rack up a stupid amount of rushing yards, a stupid amount of touchdowns to make up the Giants' offense, especially if Daniel Jones doesn't get as involved in what might be his last year in the Meadowlands. I could see some people making a case for him, just because he would be, if you took him out of the Giants roster, it would be completely inept. So I would say I could see Saquon maybe getting this award, even though it's not going to translate into any team success.
I like that pick a lot, because I personally think that both he and Christian McCaffrey are two players that right now this could very well be it, Mitch. If these players don't perform this year and or see their season cut short due to injury, are these players we're talking about that might have to find new homes? Maybe not so much McCaffrey, because he got that massive extension in Carolina, but Barkley has a lot to prove. And honestly, I really like the odds he has, because you have a new head coach there in Brian Dable, who likes to run the ball. And you saw it in Buffalo, but it was just with the quarterback, because Buffalo doesn't really have any great running back. So I am excited to see Saquon Barkley back on the field. It is a little bit hotter than mine, but I do like that pick.
Yeah. You didn't have, you mentioned McCaffrey. You didn't have him as your comeback player of the year, did you?
No, I did not.
No. Okay. Cause I saw some people putting him on a list. I will get to that in a second here. Offensive rookie of the year, I actually went with a guy that you mentioned before. I had Treylon Burks out of Tennessee. I think that even if Henry is going to be the main catalyst for the offense, I think you can still get some good production out of him. This rookie class doesn't have a lot of like major stars on it per se, but I think you can have some very, very good guys later down the line, and Burks can be one of them.
I was between 2 here, and the one I just did not put in here, because it was an extremely hot take, like so hot when I was thinking about it, I think I burnt myself a little bit. So I went with the little safer route, still hot. I'm actually going wide receiver as well, Mitch, but I'm going Chris Olave down in New Orleans.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I think if Mike Thomas comes back healthy and he is the wide receiver that he was a couple of years ago, Olave is number 2 or number 3 if Jarvis is performing well, can put up some big time numbers in that Saints offense. And so that's why I'm going to go with him. I wanted to take Garrett Wilson. When you have Zach Wilson and Joe Flacco throwing the football, odds are it's not going to be a great year for you.
We shall see. Defensive player of the year is another one of my hot takes. I think it's going to be Micah Parsons from the Cowboys because he was the rookie of the year, a fantastic showing on Dallas's front last year, and I think he's only going to get better. I know the awards usually reserved for guys like Aaron Donald, I think, or one of the Watts. I think it's going to be Parsons this year.
I wanted to sit here and tell you I took Myles Garrett because I think he's inching closer and closer to it, but yeah. I can't pick him. So I'm going to go defensive end at the same position though, but I'm going to go with a guy that got some help this year, and that's Joey Bosa. I think Joey Bosa is going to get the defensive player of the year. You had Khalil Mack on that team out in Los Angeles. I think Bosa, assuming he stays healthy, is going to put up some big time numbers in that Chargers defense. And I think I expect him to come away with it.
One defensive rookie of the year back in 2016, so it's not impossible, and he's been a multiple time Pro Bowler since then. I can definitely see that. Defensive rookie of the year, I think unless he gets hurt early on in the season, Aiden Hutchinson from Detroit's going to take this one and run with it because he is one of the most talented defenders of this draft, and I think he can that aggressive Dan Campbell Lions team, man, can really get some good stuff out of him, and he could be like a monster to opposing offensive lines.
I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm right there with you. I picked Aiden Hutchinson to get rookie defensive player of the year.
All right. And then comeback player of the year. I have Derrick Henry from Tennessee, just coming back from that injury. If he just has the season like he normally does, especially having to carry so much of that Tennessee offensive front, he's got it in the bag.
I already teased it earlier in the show, Mitch. I'm taking Jameis Winston, comeback player of the year down in New Orleans. People forget he was actually playing very, very well last year before he got hurt.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he comes back and picks up where he left off, because if he does, my takes aren't going to look so hot.
Eat a dub. So I'm going to go with my coach of the year. I just like saying that, but every time there's a Jameis related tweet on Twitter, I always just put in the comment, eat a dub with no context. So then coach of the year, I actually, I was between a few guys. It's a guy that you kind of had some critiques of, from his decisions last year. I think that he's probably learned from it. I think he's going to be able to provide a very solid offense out in LA. I'm going Brandon Staley with the Chargers, and that's me basing it on the Chargers offense becomes such of a juggernaut that they overtake KC in the AFC West. And playoffs are the playoffs. He'll probably get bounced in the first round either way, but I'm going to say Staley.
Not a bad pick. There was probably about 4 or 5 guys I was sifting through trying to figure out who I wanted to go with. I ended up cutting it down to 2, and shockingly, both of them had very similar last names. But if we're going off what I have prediction wise, I'm going to stay with my prediction and go with Mike McDaniel in Miami over Josh McDaniels in Las Vegas. But I do have Mike McDaniel being coach of the year. You've seen it now with Kevin Stefanski back in 2020, and then Matt Nagy, I believe, in 2018, rookie head coaches that can take teams that were not very successful the year before or just make that leap into the playoffs, generally get the benefit of the doubt in coach of the year voting. And like I said, this falls hand in hand with my pick of what I expect here. And so Mike McDaniel, my coach of the year.
As long as I said before, I think the Raiders might not get off to a bad start before completely rebounding. If they don't do that, then I can see McDaniels really making himself a case for that honor. So finally, the MVP honors. I'm just going to come out and say it. The Buffalo's going to be the best team in the league, and Josh Allen's going to be the most valuable player for that team. I think he's going to be the one to really rack up some insane numbers. Even with guys like Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes in the same conference, Allen takes the one because Buffalo's going to be the most talked about team this year.
And I agree with you because I do think that is probably what it will be, but I obviously picked differently because I wanted to add some spice here and go with my picks. I'm going with somebody that has never gotten an MVP vote, and it's going to be Russell Wilson. I think now being in Denver, I think he's going to air it out a little more, be a quarterback we saw a couple of years ago, glimpses of it. I really think Russ Wilson is due for it, and that's why I'm going with him, right? I got the Broncos in the Super Bowl, so you got to have somebody big time on that team, and why not Russ? Why not Mr. Unlimited?
That's something else. He's never gotten a vote. I mean, that's unbelievable. So yeah, those are our predictions in terms of the playoffs and the honors. We mentioned some of our hot takes in there. If you got any more out of there, I mean, spout them out now or spout them out during the last segment, because we're going to be doing a quick pick 'em here for week 1 of the NFL season here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show.
If you're purchasing a new home, the team at Hartzler's Quality Housing is here to help. Take advantage of record low interest rates to make your new home a reality. Locally owned and operated since 1978, Hartzler's Quality Housing has the experience to guide you through the process. You'll find a wide selection of model homes on site to fit any budget. Open 6 days a week just off I-77. You can also visit them online at hartzlers.com. Hartzler's Quality Housing. Quality from start to finish.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
Hard work is something you're accustomed to. Van Nostrand Young understands that principle. Our access is achieved with organizations like Grange Insurance. Safety and prevention specialists utilize our VanCan assessments process to ensure that you and your colleagues are in the best hands. You want the safest environment for your business, and we can guide you there.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
And we're back here for the final segment of the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Spinell and Mitchell Balla. It's time now, after giving our predictions for the upcoming NFL season. First of all, what are your guys' predictions for the upcoming year in terms of standings, in terms of playoffs, awards and honors, hot takes? Be sure to either comment down below or tweet at us at Mitch Spinell or at Mitchell Balla. So we want to go now into week 1. Is coming up here Thursday night between the Bills and the Rams, and of course the crop of games we have over the weekend. So we want to go now to our predictions for week 1. It's basically an NFL pick'em. Let's start it off here, Mitch. We want to save the game we were talking about for last. Let's start off with the first game first. Thursday night. It's going to be in LA at SoFi Stadium between the reigning Super Bowl champion Rams up against one of the teams that many think is going to be an AFC powerhouse contender in the Bills. Now, Buffalo comes in at 2.5 points favorites. Who do you have in this Thursday night match? It really is a toss-up on Thursday night openers, but who do you got?
It is, and the atmosphere out in LA is going to be raucous as they unveil the World Championship banner out there for the Rams. But I have the Buffalo Bills, because nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, going into Los Angeles and SoFi Stadium and ruining opening night for the Rams. I have the Bills walking away with a victory, moving to 1-0 in week 1.
Aaron Donald returning to his old home after last season. Now, I think that you mentioned there's such thing as a Super Bowl hangover. There's no better example than like when the Super Bowl champion opens up the Thursday nights to open the season. I've seen New England did it a few years ago against I want to say Kansas City, and I'm going to take the Bills over the Rams in this one as well. So now we go to Sunday, starting off in the NFC. Let's start off in the NFC. This is everyone's matchup to talk about. Saints versus Falcons, NFC South against NFC South. I mean, this is just Saints, right? This is 5.5 point favorites for New Orleans.
Yep. Comeback player of the year, Jameis Winston's going to leave his mark with offensive rookie of the year, Chris Olave, and they're going to eat a dub.
With coach of the year, Dennis Allen. Okay, so then we have 49ers up against the Bears. It's 1 o'clock, 7-point favorites, a touchdown favorite, San Francisco.
Bold. You're putting a 7-point favorite on the road week 1 coming to Chicago. And Mitch, this is going to be one of the first meltdowns San Francisco has. This is my one upset I have picked this week. Give me the Chicago Bears opening 1-0 this week over the 49ers.
Justin Fields is the future will be the headline. Steelers versus Bengals in the afternoon. Cincinnati 6.5-point favorites over Goat Bisky and the Steelers.
I love that you call him Goat Biscuit. That's amazing. But he's not going to be goat enough because I have the Bengals. I don't know who you have here though. Do you have Goat Biscuit?
No, I got the Bengals in this one as well. Okay. I should have mentioned too. I think the 49ers are going to go and beat Chicago. I don't think there's going to be a meltdown this one. Although Trey Lance might struggle, I think Chicago's going to struggle even more. Although Justin Fields could have a better game than Trey Lance, I think could be another one of those. Eagles versus the Lions. Philadelphia 4-point favorites.
Yeah, I got to go with them. I want to go with Man Campbell. I really do. I want to see him bite a kneecap on the way up, but I'm going to have to take the Philadelphia Eagles.
I'm going with the favorite too. Now we have a 3.5-point advantage for Miami in their home opener against the Patriots. I don't agree with this one. I'm going with the Patriots.
Really? You know what? Honestly, though, I could really see being the Patriots because Belichick versus rookie head coaches is tremendous. I do have the Dolphins picked here, though, and I will take the team in the home opener because maybe Belichick's not ready for the type of offense that McDaniel's going to trot out there on Sunday.
So next up is relevant to the AFC. We mentioned the Steelers and the Bengals. Now we have Ravens up against the Jets. Baltimore, a full-on touchdown favorite, and for good reason. Give me Baltimore. Give me the points. Give me more points against this Jets team.
You're not taking the Joe Flacco revenge tour versus old team?
I mean, look, he might be fired up for that one, and he might come out and start 6 for 6 for all I know. But Baltimore is going to settle down, and they're going to handle New York just fine, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Joe Flacco's washed. The Ravens are going to cover that easily, and the Ravens are walking away 1-0.
All right, Jaguars versus Commanders. Washington 2.5-point favorites. I think I had Washington taking this one.
I don't know why I had the Jags written down, but I'm going to switch. Give me Washington.
Washington. Okay,
I like the Commandos at home, and like I said, just not a big Jacksonville believer.
I could see that. All right, so now Colts against the Texans, AFC South. Indianapolis, 7-point favorites. Should be 17-point favorites.
Yep.
We're good? Colts?
Simple.
Yep.
Yeah, we're
okay.
there.
Yeah, okay. So then we have Giants up against the Titans. Tennessee, 5.5-point favorites in Tennessee.
Give me the G-Men.
Wow, okay.
Second, I told you I had a couple upsets. Week 1, give me the G-Men knocking off the Tennessee Titans.
I'll tell you what, I'll take Tennessee, but I don't think I can take the points. I think that New York will keep it close at least. I think Tennessee might have some falters there, especially early on, but they'll still pull out the victory. So Packers up against the Vikings. This is the second of the midday games after Giants and Titans. And Green Bay, just a 1.5 favorites in Minnesota. So that one could go either way, but I think I'm going to go with Green Bay.
I'll go with Green Bay too. Simple as that. One team has Aaron Rodgers, the other doesn't.
No, they do not. So then we have Chiefs up against Cardinals, a high-profile quarterback matchup. It was Chiefs 6-point favorites on the road, and I think that's. I got to take Kansas City, but I don't know about those points, man. I think I'll say the points. Kansas City and the points.
Yeah, it's September. Kyler Murray is actually very good before October hits when Call of Duty drops. So if you have the Chiefs or Cardinals fantasy defense, you really shouldn't start them this week because I don't even know what the over-under's at. I think there's going to be points galore, but I will take the Chiefs, but not the points because I think the Cardinals will keep it close.
Okay, so then we have Raiders up against the Chargers. One of the teams. This is your second and fourth place teams in the AFC West, if I'm not mistaken. Correct. So and I would have said the opposite if I were in those two spots. Chargers 3-point favorites going into the game at SoFi.
So it seems like you're taking the Chargers.
I would take the Chargers in this one. Yes,
I'm going to take the Raiders.
Could be close. Could be close. I'll say that. I mean, could be right on the money line. And then finally not finally, but the Sunday night game. Dallas opening up in the big house against Tom Brady and Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay comes in at 2.5-point favorites.
Give me Tampa Bay.
I'm not taking the points, but I'm taking the Buccaneers as well. That's going to be a hard-fought contest, I think. And then Monday night, we ended up having we talked about all the talk about Baker Mayfield facing off with his former team in week 1. Russell Wilson taking on the Seahawks for the Broncos on Monday night to open up Monday Night Football. Denver 6.5-point favorites, despite going on the road. I think he'll do fine against his former team, and I think he'll double up the points. I think I'm going to go with Denver in an easy one.
Broncos country. Let's ride. But
Right.
I will not take the points because, Mitch, no matter how big the disparity is in the teams, typically in primetime games, both teams show up and they play good games. I think Seattle keeps it close, but I will take Denver to win.
All right, and finally, we have the big one Sunday afternoon. Carolina Panthers 1.5 point favorites. That's insane. Over the Browns. That's is that the closest matchup we have this week? It is, yeah. So this is the closest we have in terms of points. So it's probably going to be the most competitive matchup on paper. We don't know what's going to happen in the results, obviously. I mentioned before, Jacoby can win a number of games early on in the year before the bye. This is one of the ones where I was very on the fence with. I thought about it for a while, and I do kind of fear that I don't think he'll have his greatest game against us, but I do fear that Baker Mayfield's going to be so fired up for the revenge that he's going to at least will Carolina to a week 1 victory. And then all the talk is going to be how the Browns completely misfired in trading him and going after Watson.
Yeah. Hold on. Do you hear that? You hear that dog check?
I did hear the dog check.
Well,
so
guess what?
Nobody's
heard that dog check since 2004 when it comes to week 1 winners. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm picking the Browns because they don't win openers. They don't.
No.
2004, Mitch, is the last time they won a season opener.
Yeah.
Not only that, you're on the road. You're playing a Panthers team that, they have a lot to prove, not just because of who the quarterback is, but because of who the head coach is. That's a coach we could have said on the hot seat, Matt Rule. And then you face the quarterback you traded away that thrives in these type of situations where his back is up against the wall. He did it in college. He did it in the NFL. I sat here and told you I don't think Jacoby wins more than 4 games, and this is not going to be one of the games that he wins. I have the Panthers winning. Boy, do I hope I'm wrong. Boy, do I hope I have to get on here Monday and say I was wrong because I want to be wrong. But I'm taking the Panthers. I have to.
Yeah, I think we're both taking Panthers in there. And unfortunately, it's unfortunate because I do hope we end up being wrong and that the Browns come out victorious. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we have the best record in terms of pick'ems at the end of the year. And I feel like the end of the year, we should either get something. One of the guys should give the other one something, or the other one or the loser should be forced to do something. I actually did have these right here, and we can't do these for the end of the year because they're not going to, I don't think they're going to last. I guess 4.5 months at this point. You ever seen those 1 chip challenge videos on YouTube?
Yes, I have.
They were selling these at the Circle K near my house, and I got 2 of them because I want to try it with somebody. I was going to have them do these, but if there's anybody in the comments, by the way, who has an idea for what we can do with them, doesn't even have to be Mitch. I don't want to hurt Balla's stomach or taste buds on this one. Let me know if there's any ideas that I can do with 2 packs of chip challenge things here. I mean, I saw the video of Shaq doing one where he makes the water bottle look really tiny, but I do want to see what we can do with that one. And I've completely let this conversation go off the rails because we wanted to talk about football. Yeah, so that's our picks for week 1, and we want to obviously know your picks at Mitch Spinell, at Mitchell Balla, or comment below here on YouTube. I think we'll probably put up a thing on Anchor, which will transition over to Spotify, so we'll get that on there. And of course, Spotify is one of the places where you can listen to this podcast, as well as Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud. SoundCloud's audio only. The rest of them should be on video. And of course, here on YouTube, the Big Time Sports Podcast Show, our website, bigtimesportsohio.com, and BTS Ohio on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all. Actually, we're Big Time Sports Ohio on Instagram. We got to get one name for all these things. We'll talk to Mellotones about it. Also, we got to talk to him. I don't mean to make this on public. You know those newsletters he puts out at the beginning of every week saying like the schedule for BTS?
Yep, I remember you're going with this.
We got to talk to him about that because he got our name wrong, first of all, and then he said we're on every day. So we're gonna have to do a whole thing about it. So but yeah, thank you, Charlie, for letting us poison your airwaves, and thank you guys so much for watching this week. We really appreciate it. So Mitch, what's the big fact of the day from you?
Well, we're going to keep, I feel like some people might know this one already, but because it's football related, Mitch, more than 700,000 footballs are made a year, handmade. Where though? Ada, Ohio, where the Super Bowl footballs, the NFL footballs used are made. So for those of you that didn't know where the NFL game used footballs come from, they come from the great state of Ohio.
Really? You know what? In fact, I have a fact for you. I believe the Buckeye State is home to where they make the floor panels for the Final Four every year.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's out in the Amish country near where I live, kind of like that Berlin Sugar Creek area. So, yeah, that's what we have there for the fact. I'm gonna try and actually try this time. Oh, there we go. I thought I had it that time. So, thank you all for listening and watching this episode of the Big Time Sports Podcast Show.